If you would have told me in early March that by spring break I would be working from home in my lavish windowless basement office with the fake books, that I would not even be allowed to go to my office on campus, that all of the courses at my university would be offered via remote learning and distance learning, that all of the cardiopulmonary rehabilitation sites at the health system with which I'm affiliated would be closed, that all of the state parks in Florida would be closed and I would not be on spring break. If you'd have told me this, I would have thought that you were gravely mistaken, is a nice way of putting it. But so much can change in 3 weeks. Here I am. Every hour, urgent emails arrive from university or hospital administrators. Are you exhausted yet? This novel coronavirus, this COVID-19 pandemic, is a global challenge to public health that affects especially vulnerable people such as cardiac and pulmonary patients, and that affects frontline workers such as yourselves, all of our healthcare professionals, all of our first responders. So I'm here to present a stress coping plan that I wrote, and it was reviewed by a half dozen psychologists, anxiety experts, including our very own Kent Eichenauer, who until recently was the chair of the Psychosocial and Nutrition Experts Group at FAACVPR. I'm now the chair of that group, and in our last monthly teleconference, the main agenda item was, what does FAACVPR need from us? And immediately when my university ceased operations on campus and only allowed essential staff to even come into the buildings, I started writing an anxiety and stress and coping plan. I've used it for my students, my graduate students, my undergraduate students. I've distributed it widely. I will send you a Word document of this if you want, that you can put in your own brochure, no attribution required. I've had it reviewed by a bunch of psychologists. Kent Eichenauer has contributed some amazing ideas to it. The reason I do this is because although right now we're trying to get through this global pandemic, you and I are aware that stress and anxiety is not healthy for our patients. It's not healthy for us. And I believe that one of the major consequences of this pandemic is going to be a spike in anxiety disorders, stress rates, maybe depression, a lot of bad fallout in terms of psychosocial and behavioral health. And so I offer you my stress coping plan. I think we can all agree that pandemics are stressful. A recent Gallup poll revealed that 60% of Americans are very or somewhat worried about themselves or a member of their family becoming infected with the novel coronavirus. This is a nationally representative poll. It has an error rate of plus or minus 4%. There's a CDC webpage with information about COVID-19, and it includes a plan for managing stress during the pandemic. In the media, people are starting to report more and more that they are concerned with the anxiety and the stress and the psychological fallout of this pandemic. And in the media, various psychology experts have offered up a variety of different approaches for dealing with stress, and this one is ours. This one I wrote immediately when the pandemic started because I knew I would need it for my students and my colleagues and eventually patients. And so what follows is a set of ideas for coping with stress during the pandemic. It's loosely based on psychological principles. Principles such as exposure, which is the idea of exposing yourself to the feared stimulus so that you get used to it. Acceptance and commitment, which is part of the third wave of cognitive behavioral therapy. And that's the idea that instead of always pushing away how you feel and trying to stop feeling different ways, there's some value in accepting depression, anxiety, whatever, accepting that this is just part of life, and then committing to live according to your most deeply held values. It also has ideas such as stress management and active coping, positive coping. And finally, something that's a little bit paradoxical is the idea of scheduling your worry. People who are very worried are often
instructed to schedule a certain time of day that they should worry. They often believe that they're supposed to stop worrying, but they can't. And so instead, if you schedule your worry, you'll worry a lot less. So here we go. The first one is COMMIT. There's an acronym, Cardiopulmonary Rehabilitation C.A.R.E.S. We'll start with C. Commit to living a life consistent with your most deeply held values. What is truly important to you? Commit to living a principled life, no matter what's going on. Resist being reactive, reactionary, and living a shallow, frantic life. If you're still working, as I am, from home, we still have long work days. It feels like work is a lot of the time right now, even though I'm supposed to be on spring break. And it's easy to have your guard up during that time. I keep hearing reports of people that I either know or they're maybe one or two connections away that are being tested or that have tested positive. It's hard to have any reserves left at the end of the workday, whether you're going into the hospital or medical center or whether you're working from home. But we can find ways to live a life that's rooted in our values. Here are some value domains from a manual that I'm writing for a different treatment for behavioral activation for depression. But we thought about the different domains of life around which you can schedule positive coping things to do that would be enjoyable. They include relationships. Maybe that's what's most important to you. Education or career. Recreation and interests. Mind, body, and spirituality. And daily responsibilities. These were all chosen because we figured that there would be many activities within each of these value domains that people need to attend to, that they might not be attending to if they're anxious and depressed, and that we could come up with ideas for activities that people could engage in that would hit on one of these different value domains. For example, if what matters to you is relationships, like it does to me, one of the things that you could do is find ways to connect online. I'm considering this not to be me time, but you time. And what I mean by that is I'm spending time with my daughters who are here with me. I'm spending time with my wife. I'm connecting online with students. We're still having meetings, but they're meetings over some kind of platform, video meetings. So if you're creative, you can maintain your interpersonal relationships. You can even deepen them because now there's going to be less distractions in a way if you're stuck at home and you can be with your people. Another thing you can do is maybe create activities for your kids. Children are also stressed out at this time. And if you could probably find some ways, maybe build an obstacle course for them in the house. I mean, depending on their age. My 19-year-old maybe does not want an obstacle course, but maybe my 10-year-old does. Maybe you could do some spiritual reading during this time, some meditation. Maybe it's time to learn a new skill. Maybe it's time to learn to play the guitar. There's 1,000, a million online lessons for guitar that you can find. Use this time to be creative and to find positive activities maybe you've always wanted to do that now you have time for. You need that time. If you don't take care of yourself, who's going to take care of your patients? This is a consistent message from administrators, is that healthcare professionals need to take care of themselves. They want us to be healthy. And so commit to living a life according to your values. A is for accept. Accept that some fear and anxiety is normal because pandemics are scary. The reason that we accept our emotions is because a key feature of anxiety is to deny and avoid emotions. In particular, when people become anxious, a key feature of anxiety is often worry. And worry is a shallow, cognitive, kind of the hamster wheel in the head approach to fear. It's not really fear. It's kind of a low-grade thinking about fear. And it provides the illusion that you're preparing for the worst and that you will be more able to cope with the worst. But that's really just an illusion. Worry makes us avoid our feelings, our situations, and our behaviors. And so what you want to do is accept your emotions. Let them happen. Emotions are like the weather. Sometimes they're very strong. Sometimes they're like a thunderstorm or a hurricane. But they come and they go. You cannot control when they come and go completely, but you can let them happen. After all, you have your feelings. They don't have you. The problem, again, which is why we ask you to accept, is that when you try to push things away, it actually maintains negative emotions for a very long time. Moving on. Relax. Everyone at Cardiopulmonary Rehabilitation knows about stress management and relaxation techniques. You have these handouts. Use them. They're not just for the patients. Maybe this is a time to learn progressive muscle relaxation. We hand it out like aspirin in clinical health psychology. Find a script online, find an app you can download, find something, and learn that feeling of being deeply relaxed. Learn to meditate, or if you already know how, give yourself the time to do your meditation every day. The point of relaxation techniques and this form of stress management is just to bring down your overall level of physiological arousal. Just bring it down. Get into that very relaxed state. It's a skill that you can learn if you are intentional about relaxing. And if you let it happen and relax, you'll bring down your arousal level. And what that does is it steals the oxygen from the stress fire. In order to be really, really stressed out and really anxious, most people need to amp up their physiological arousal. And you end up getting flooded. That's a Gottman term, the marriage expert John Gottman. When your heart rate gets too high because you're anxious, you can't process anymore. You end up shutting down. You're very stressed out. You're blanked out. You can't deal anymore. No good. So let's steal the oxygen from the stress fire by becoming relaxed. Here's an example. It's the popular 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique that's recommended for people, especially when they feel like they just can't get off that hamster wheel in their head. They just feel like they're, so worried and they can't stop the thoughts, and the thoughts are just taking over the day. Well, here's what you should do. Take a deep, slow breath. Don't skip this step. Let's do it together. Take a deep, slow breath. Okay. What are 5 things you can see? I can see the blue light that's around the camera, so I know the camera's on. I can see the desk and my pen. I can see the watercolor painting on the far wall by my late father, Howard. I can see the lamp that I'm using for lighting to light this amazing camera shot. I can see my guitar that I don't know how to play. I don't know if that was 5, but using my sense of vision, I just brought it very concrete. What can I see? What can I touch? I can touch the desk is hard. It's a little bit cold. I feel the weight of my body in the chair. I feel the tightness of this blue blazer that's ridiculously unnecessary, but I'm doing a webinar. I can touch this pen. The pen is kind of slippery. Seems not a good thing for a pen. What are 3 things you can hear? I can hear the clock ticking. I can hear the whirring of the computer fan that will probably be in the audio. I can hear my wife moving around upstairs. What are 2 things you can smell? If I weren't recording, I would go find some smelly soap or something, but I got my coffee here. I can smell my coffee. I can smell that delightful, musty basement smell. What's one thing you can taste? Well, I have my coffee. Or maybe your mouth still smells a little bit like toothpaste from this morning. The point is that fully engaging your five senses directs your attention to the present moment and away from stressful thoughts. Using your five senses is a very concrete way of arresting your attention so that you have to stop and get off that hamster wheel of stressful thoughts in your head. So in addition to relaxation, we also need to exercise. E is for exercise, but it's really an umbrella term that includes sleep and nutrition. No matter what is going on in the world, we have to continue to engage in self-care, such as nutrition, sleep, physical activity. All of these help maintain our physical and our mental health. Exercise in particular is a powerful medicine for depression. In cardiac patients, exercise is as effective as antidepressants. Exercise also burns off the stress hormones, which is one of the reasons that zebras don't get ulcers. They run when they're scared. They burn off the stress hormones. They don't get ulcers. For example, take a brisk walk. Getting outside to get fresh air is healthy, so long as you don't congregate in little crowds on the bike path. You know, if you keep your social distancing, taking a brisk walk, going for a jog, walking on your treadmill in the basement, I have a picture of that next. You could eat your fruits and veggies. Our dietitians have always recommended that we eat more fruits and veggies. And when you go to the store to look for toilet paper that's not there, you'll find that all the produce is still there. So this is a good opportunity to commit to that value of health and nutrition and find ways to prepare creative dishes with leafy greens and bright colored vegetables and eat some. That kind of stuff will help keep you healthy, and it will remind you of a sense of normalcy that no matter what's happening, I'm still minding my nutrition. Give yourself at least the opportunity for at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Maybe you're working from home, like me, in which case there's no commute, so I have a little bit more time to sleep. And even if you do still commute to the medical center, try to give yourself the opportunity, the time in bed, for 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Sleep is the great therapist, especially REM sleep. REM sleep is the first to go if you restrict your sleeping time, but REM sleep is the part of the sleep cycle that helps to kind of reset those emotions. You know, if you've had a stressful day and sometimes you feel like, let's just sleep on it, there's a real truth to that. We all know that little Johnny is going to have a temper tantrum tomorrow if he doesn't sleep tonight, and you're really no different. Sleep is a fantastic therapist for helping you deal with stress. So try to get as much sleep as you can. Here's my treadmill setup. The minute the pandemic started, I moved the TV to right in front of the treadmill. And my unofficial rule for myself is that I only watch the TV news, that is, while I'm walking. And I'm committed to get 10,000 steps every day. I actually have a 2-week challenge that one of my friends set up on Facebook. And so I joined this 2-week challenge where we're all going to work out and eat healthy for the next 2 weeks because we refuse to become lonely slugs at home when all of us are stuck at home. So I can even put my laptop on the stand that I built over the treadmill. I can read while I'm walking on the treadmill. I'm determined to get 10,000 steps every day. And in Ohio, sometimes the weather's terrible and you don't want to go outside and walk around. But I can always walk in my completely cluttered, ridiculous basement. And then finally, S is for schedule. Get up at the same time every day, even if you don't have anywhere to go. Schedule your times for work, for school, for chores, for exercise, and sleep. Schedules promote healthy habits. Schedules provide a reassuring routine that leaves less time to worry and remind you that life goes on. In fact, if you are worried and anxious, schedule your worry. That sounds counterintuitive, and people don't think it's possible, but it actually is. When people are very worried, we ask them to schedule the time of the day that they're going to worry, because whatever you track, you have more control over. If you count the number of fruits and vegetables that you eat, you'll eat more. If you keep the bottle caps from the beer bottles in your pocket, you'll count how many you've had and you'll stop sooner, that kind of thing. And so if you track your worry by saying, I will worry for maybe 1 hour a day, that's plenty of time to worry. And you could schedule that. You could say, I will worry while I watch the evening news for a half an hour or an hour. Then for the rest of the day, when you find yourself worrying, write down what you're worried about. Oh, I need to worry about my friends in Florida. Oh, I need to worry about this other thing. Oh, what about these projects I can't do because I can't get into my office? Write those things down, put them in your phone, and save them for your worry time. What this does is it compresses the time that you worry into a smaller amount of time during the day, and that way the worry doesn't take over the whole day. And toward that end, we recommend that you schedule when you watch the news and read media online about the pandemic. Don't let the pandemic take over your whole day. Don't just sit there glued to the news forever. Don't do that. So in conclusion, don't deteriorate. That's the whole point of this. So a teleconference from the home office on day 1, everybody's bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. But by day 14, you can have really gone downhill if you haven't maintained some schedule, some sense of normalcy, some stress and coping plan. Anyway, in conclusion, cardiopulmonary rehabilitation cares. Commit to living a life according to your values. Accept your emotions, no matter what they are: fear, disappointment, sadness. Just accept that they happen. Let them happen and they will pass. Relax. Now, more than ever, use your stress coping, your stress management techniques that allow you to relax and lower that physiological arousal. Exercise. Exercise is an umbrella term for nutrition, sleep, and exercise, physical activity. Keep that fitness up. And finally, schedule. Schedule all the things you're going to do so that your life stays more disciplined and habitual. So I'd like to acknowledge FAACVPR, our president, Anna Mola, the COVID-19 task force, the Psychosocial and Nutrition Committee, all of our cardiopulmonary rehab staff everywhere, our patients, and their families.